You'd think that home care is a simple enough concept. It's the care delivered at home. Where's the mystery, right? But actually, there are a number of subtleties that can complicate things. Do you or your loved one require at-home medical attention? Is assistance required doing chores or housework? Will you need even more basic personal care, such as performing daily activities like getting dressed or using the bathroom? Obviously, the specific answers will depend on your situation, but the fact that different answers can be given shows that the home care landscape can be quite diverse. So in this video, I want to give you a working definition in answer to the question, just what do we mean by in-home care? Number one, family care versus professional care. Home care can be provided by family members or by professionals. A lot of the materials that I've produced for this channel are geared toward helping family caretakers to perform their responsibilities, from installing childproof latches on cabinets to installing deadbolt locks on the front door. Many interventions may be required to make the home environment safe enough for a person with Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia. But there isn't a bright line between family care and professional care in the sense that there are any number of care scenarios that might require the involvement of both. And number two, both kinds have numerous costs. Anyone involved in familial care for any length of time knows that the difference between do-it-yourself care and pro-care probably is not best understood as the difference between free care on the one hand and paid care on the other. As I get into in other presentations, if you have to take over your loved one's grocery bills, or if you have to take unpaid leave from a job, or if you have to withdraw money from savings or retirement accounts, then you're paying. Now, granted, how that affects your overall financial picture is circumstantial and highly variable. Not only that, but caretaking, even for part of a day or a week or however long, requires time. Bottom line, you're going to pay for care however you cut it. You're either going to pay with time or with money, and probably you're going to pay with both. Now that said, number three, both kinds of care have pluses and minuses. For one thing, in theory anyway, most professional caretakers are going to have experiences and training that many or even most family members are not going to have. So let's allow that this gives professionals an edge in terms of technical competence. Even still, and intuitively, no one loves your afflicted family member like you do. Now don't get me wrong, many caretakers are genuinely compassionate and kind-hearted people. But the empathy that they may and hopefully do display isn't grounded in decades of personal history. The connection that you have with a family member, or that you could have in principle, simply cannot be replicated. Additionally, number four, the two kinds of care, family and professional, are not always interchangeable. One example where this is the case involves long-term care insurance payouts. This is an intricate topic and I've touched on it elsewhere. Suffice it to say here that a few long-term care policies do provide for home care benefits. However, the most common types require that these disbursements go toward professional care. In most cases, you cannot expect that long-term insurance funds will be made payable to family members. And that holds even if the family members happen to be certified healthcare professionals. However, consult your insurance agent for the particulars of your contract. Incidentally, we can tell a similar story about Medicare's home health benefits. For more details about these benefits, with special emphasis on how they relate to Alzheimer's and dementia caretaking scenarios, see my dedicated video. But the upshot for interchangeability is that even where Medicare's home health benefits are applicable, they are only payable to Medicare-certified home health agencies. Number five, home health aides versus homemaking professionals. I got into this more in the recently published video titled Why Home Care is Sometimes More Expensive Than a Nursing Home. But in general, homemaking professionals help with things like cleaning and laundry, cooking and food preparation, and depending on the scope of service, things like running errands and going grocery shopping. By contrast, home health aides are, in the first place, focused on things like delivering custodial or personal care. This basically amounts to helping the afflicted person perform what are called the activities of daily living, or ADLs. I have a dedicated video explaining the ins and outs of ADLs, but we're talking about things like helping an afflicted person dress, helping them eat, toilet, and transfer. That is to say, getting in and out of a bed or getting in and out of a chair. Now, this distinction between home health services and homemaking services is sometimes called, number 6, a difference between hands-on services versus hands-off services. The idea is that hands-on services are ones that require the aide to touch or put their hands on your loved one. This may include things like those previously listed, like helping a person dress, eat, toilet, or transfer. In other words, hands-on can function as a virtual synonym for help with the ADLs. Things can get a bit confusing, however, and one reason for that is the following. Number 7, there's a difference between partial and total care. It may be worth me explaining this more fully in a future video, but the Cliff's Notes version is that an aide might be required to provide only a little bit of assistance, or they might be required to provide quite a bit of assistance. So take eating or feeding as an example. Partial assistance might entail cutting food into more easily chewable portions, putting food on a plate, setting the plate on a table next to utensils, and so on. Total assistance would involve loading a fork or spoon with food, putting the utensil into a person's mouth, directing or reminding the person to chew and swallow, etc. With respect to eating then, partial assistance isn't necessarily hands-on, whereas total assistance arguably might be or would be. But this may not be the case with other ADLs, for example, bathing, dressing, toileting, and transferring. Even assuming that an afflicted person could participate to a limited extent, these ADLs, helping with these ADLs, almost certainly will require an aide to have to touch the person. Some ADLs just end up being hands-on regardless of the level of assistance that's required. Now, another confusion between hands-on care and hands-off care can arise because, number 8, besides ADLs, there are also IADLs. This is to say that many homemaking tasks fall under a caretaking category labeled the instrumental activities of daily living. To provide a basic definition, let me turn to a National Library of Medicine article. Instrumental activities of daily living, abbreviated IADLs, are those activities that allow an individual to live independently in a community. Although not necessary for functional living, that is, they're not necessary to keep the body just alive, the ability to perform IADLs can significantly improve the quality of life. The major domains of IADLs include cooking, cleaning, transportation, laundry, and managing finances. Number 9, custodial care versus skilled nursing care. Aside from exceptional cases, family members probably will not be licensed healthcare professionals. But because of the special relationship that family members have with one another, they are given prerogatives that third parties simply would not have. For example, family members might learn how to clean and dress wounds or insert and remove catheters, whereas these would not be services that home health aides, strictly so called, would be permitted or able to perform. Home health aides are not licensed nurses, and therefore they are not qualified to provide what is called skilled care. To get that sort of broadly medical care in the home, you'd either have to hire a skilled nurse or you'd have to take a suitably informed do-it-yourself approach. Now, there's a lot more to say on this point, but I want to keep it cursory for this overview. Finally, let me just mention a few additional odds and ends and talk about, number 10, other categories such as respite care. Once again, I have videos getting into this and other forms of care more in depth. But for the time being, I'll simply say that respite care is care that's designed to give the primary caretaker a break. The word respite, after all, signifies relief or rest, especially from some kind of hardship. In the context of home care, respite care would factor in two main ways. If we're limiting ourselves to family-provided care, then if you're the primary caretaker, you could get a respite, get a break if some other relative took over for you for a limited amount of time. But let's speak about professional care options. Some respite care providers may come into your home, whereas others would maintain a facility and would expect that you bring your loved one to them. In-home care might be arrangeable for a couple of days. Facility care might be able to accommodate your loved one for, say, a week. But either way, we're talking about short-term relief. Now, in other videos, I've mentioned things such as adult daycare and assisted living. But it's important to realize that unless your loved one is in an early stage of Alzheimer's or dementia, or unless they are able to live semi-independently, then these options are probably unavailable. But if they are relevant to your care scenario, then I recommend my other presentations to you. Now, the Alzheimer's Proof Project is dedicated to two different things. Firstly, I try to assist families at making changes to their care environment to enable them to provide home care in the first place. Secondly, I try to provide research leads to help unafflicted people avoid getting Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia. Now, my presentations regarding the first of those goals draws heavily from the fact that I was the caretaker for my dad in his home for 4 years. And with respect to the second, Alzheimer's runs on both sides of my family, so I certainly have an interest in trying to minimize my own risk, and as I do research for that, I felt that I would just share that with you. For now, if you found something of interest or of use in the video, I do ask that you click the like button, and if you would like to see more dementia-related content, then I invite you to subscribe. If you would like to be alerted to that new content as it becomes available, then please click the notification bell. Either way, I thank you so much for watching, and I wish you all the best in your caretaking.